You did not arrive here by accident, and you are not listening to these words by chance. Something deeper than logic, deeper than habit, deeper than the restless voice of the world has guided you to this moment. There is a quiet intelligence within you that has always known when it was time to listen, when it was time to remember, when it was time to come home. And as you sit with these words now, I want you to gently consider a possibility that may change the way you see everything. God is not somewhere else. God is not distant, not hidden, not waiting behind a veil you must earn the right to cross. God is the very energy that animates your breath, the awareness that hears these words, the presence that has never left you, not for a single moment. Most of us were taught very early in life to look outward for the sacred. We were taught to search the skies, the temples, the books, the authorities, the experts. We were taught that divinity was separate, elevated, distant, and conditional. And without realizing it, we learned to feel small in the presence of something we believed was great. We learned to bow not in reverence, but in unworthiness. We learned to ask, to plead, to hope that one day we might be deemed enough to be loved, guided, forgiven, or blessed. And in that very learning, we forgot something essential. The source we are seeking is the source from which we came. There is a profound difference between believing in God and knowing God as your own deepest essence. Belief keeps God external. Knowing brings God home. Belief can be debated, defended, argued, and doubted. Knowing is silent. It does not shout. It does not compete. It simply is. When you know that the same intelligence that spins galaxies also beats your heart, you stop asking the world for permission to be whole. You stop outsourcing your worth. You stop living as a fragment searching for completion. You begin to remember yourself as an expression of something infinite, temporary in form, but eternal in essence. Think of the ocean for a moment. A wave rises, takes shape, crests, and eventually dissolves back into the sea. The wave may believe it is separate, that it must struggle to survive, that its height determines its value. But the ocean never doubts itself in the wave. The ocean is fully present in every wave, regardless of its size or duration. You are like that wave. Your body has a shape, a story, a beginning and an ending, but the energy that animates you is oceanic. It is timeless. It does not arrive when you succeed, nor does it leave when you fail. It does not grow when you are praised or shrink when you are criticized. It simply expresses itself as you. The ego, however, has a different agenda. The ego wants you to believe that you are separate, incomplete, and in constant need of validation. It survives by comparison, by judgment, by fear. The ego whispers you are not enough yet, and then points you toward the next achievement, the next possession, the next relationship, the next identity. And the tragedy is not that the ego exists, but that we mistake it for who we are. We confuse the mask with the face, the role with the soul, the costume with the actor, and in that confusion, we forget the energy within us that is already whole. The moment you begin to see the ego for what it is, a learned voice, a conditioned pattern, a collection of thoughts, you create space for something far more powerful to emerge. You begin to notice that behind every thought is awareness. Behind every emotion is presence. Behind every fear is a witnessing consciousness that is not afraid. That witnessing presence is not trying to improve itself. It is not trying to prove itself. It is not trying to become spiritual. It already is what it is seeking. That presence is the quiet place within you that has always been at peace, even when your mind was at war. When you understand that God is not a being who judges you, but the beingness that expresses as you, forgiveness takes on an entirely new meaning. You stop asking, "Am I forgiven?" and begin to ask, "What part of me is still refusing to love?" Forgiveness is not something God grants you after you repent. Forgiveness is what happens when you remember that separation was never real. You cannot hold resentment without believing in division. You cannot carry guilt without believing you have fallen out of grace. But grace is not something you fall into or out of. Grace is the ground of your existence. Every resentment you carry is a story you are telling yourself about how reality should have been different. Every grievance is a contract you keep renewing with the past. And yet, the energy that you call God only exists now. It does not live in yesterday's mistakes or tomorrow's worries. It lives in this breath, this moment, this awareness. When you cling to resentment, you are asking the present moment to pay for the past. And the present moment is innocent. It has done nothing wrong. It simply offers itself to you again and again, asking only that you meet it without armor. Letting go is not weakness. Letting go is alignment. When you release what no longer serves you, you are not losing something valuable. You are making room for what is real. The ego believes that holding on is strength. The soul knows that surrender is power. Surrender does not mean giving up your life. It means giving up the illusion that you are separate from life. It means trusting that the same intelligence that created you knows how to move through you. You were not born to manage the universe. You were born to participate in it. And participation does not require control. It requires presence. When you are present, you are available to guidance. When you are present, intuition speaks more clearly than fear. When you are present, you stop reacting to life and start responding from wisdom. The energy inside you does not shout directions. It nudges. It whispers. It feels like ease. It feels like resonance. It feels like a quiet yes in the body. So many people ask, what is my purpose? As if it were hidden in a distant future or locked behind a series of achievements. But your purpose is not something you find. It is something you remember. Your purpose is to be who you are without apology, without resistance, without the constant need to edit yourself to fit someone else's expectations. A rose does not ask how to be a rose. It does not compare itself to the oak or apologize for not being taller. It simply expresses its rosiness, and in doing so, it fulfills its purpose completely. The energy you call God is creative. It is expansive. It is loving by nature. When you align with it, you naturally become more creative, more expansive, more loving. Not because you are trying to be better, but because you are allowing what you already are to flow unobstructed. Love is not something you generate. Love is something you remove obstacles to. Fear, judgment, and resentment are the obstacles. Awareness, compassion, and presence dissolve them. Healing does not begin when circumstances change. Healing begins when perception changes. You can carry the same wound for decades, not because it is still hurting you, but because you are still identifying with it. The moment you stop saying, this happened to me, and begin saying, this happened and I am still here, something shifts. The moment you see yourself not as a victim of life, but as an expression of life, you reclaim your power. Not power over others, but power within yourself, the power to choose meaning, to choose peace, to choose love. The divine energy within you does not ask you to be perfect. It asks you to be present. It does not demand that you never feel fear. It invites you to notice fear without becoming it. It does not insist that you always get it right. It gently reminds you that even when you think you have gotten it wrong, you are still held, still guided, still loved. There is nothing you can do to earn that love, and there is nothing you can do to lose it. Love is not a reward. Love is your nature. When you change the way you look at yourself, the way you look at the world changes. When you stop seeing yourself as a problem to be fixed, you stop seeing the world as a battlefield. When you recognize the divine in yourself, you begin to recognize it everywhere. In the eyes of a stranger, in the laughter of a child, in the silence between thoughts. And life becomes less about surviving and more about remembering. This remembering is not dramatic. It does not come with fireworks or proclamations. It often arrives quietly, in moments of stillness, in the simple realization that you are okay right now. That you have always been okay at the deepest level. That beneath the stories, the roles, the fears, and the striving, there is a steady presence that has never been damaged. That presence is not impressed by your achievements, nor is it disappointed by your mistakes. It simply delights in being. As you continue to walk through your life, carrying responsibilities, relationships, dreams, and challenges, remember this: you are not walking alone, and you are not walking toward God. You are walking as God, expressed uniquely, temporarily, beautifully as you. Every step you take in awareness is a prayer. Every act of kindness is an acknowledgement of truth. Every moment of forgiveness is a return to alignment. You do not need to become spiritual. You are spiritual. You do not need to find God. You are immersed in God. You do not need to prove your worth. You are worth itself expressing in human form. And when you live from this knowing, your life becomes less about effort and more about flow. Less about fear and more about trust. Less about getting somewhere else and more about being fully here. So breathe. Feel the energy that animates you. Notice the awareness that hears these words. Let the seeking soften. Let the striving rest. And allow yourself, perhaps for the first time, to simply be what you have always been. A living expression of the divine, whole, guided, and deeply loved. And as you stay with this awareness, as you allow it to settle, not just in your mind, but in your body, in your breath, in the quiet spaces between thoughts, something subtle yet profound begins to happen. You stop trying so hard to become someone else. You stop measuring your life against an invisible standard that was never meant for you. You begin to sense that the peace you were searching for was never hiding in the future. It was waiting patiently beneath the noise of becoming. Most of the exhaustion people feel is not from doing too much, but from pretending to be something they are not. It is exhausting to carry masks. It is tiring to perform identities. It drains the soul to live from a place of not enough. And when you finally allow yourself to rest in the truth of who you are, there is a gentleness that enters your life, not passivity, not resignation, but a soft strength, a grounded clarity, a feeling that you are finally moving with life instead of against it. The divine energy within you does not rush, it is not anxious, it does not panic about timelines. It understands seasons, it understands unfolding. When a seed is planted, it does not shout at the soil to hurry up. It trusts the process. It trusts the intelligence of life to do what it knows how to do. And you, too, are part of that intelligence. When you stop interfering with fear, when you stop sabotaging yourself with doubt, when you stop demanding certainty before you move, you allow that intelligence to express itself naturally through you. So often, people say they want guidance, but what they really want is reassurance for their fear. True guidance does not always feel comfortable. It feels aligned, and alignment has a quiet certainty to it. It does not scream, it does not argue, it does not beg. It simply feels right, even when the path ahead is unclear. When you learn to trust that feeling, when you learn to honor the subtle knowing in your body, you stop outsourcing your wisdom to the world. This is what it means to live from the inside out, rather than the outside in. The outside world is always changing. Opinions shift. Circumstances rise and fall. Praise turns to criticism. Applause fades. But the energy inside you, the awareness that observes all of it, remains untouched. When you anchor yourself there, you gain a kind of stability that no external success can provide and no external loss can take away. There is a reason that moments of stillness feel nourishing. There is a reason silence feels sacred. In stillness, the ego loosens its grip. In silence, the soul speaks. Not in words, but in knowing. Not in commands, but in clarity. This is why so many people are uncomfortable with quiet. Quiet removes distraction, and without distraction, we are invited to meet ourselves. But once you move through that initial discomfort, once you stop running from your own presence, you discover that what is waiting for you is not judgment, but compassion. Compassion for yourself changes everything. When you stop punishing yourself for being human, you stop needing to punish others for being human too. When you understand that your mistakes were not moral failures, but moments of unconsciousness, you begin to see others the same way. And this is where true forgiveness is born, not from obligation, but from understanding. Forgiveness becomes less about excusing behavior and more about releasing yourself from the burden of carrying it. Holding on to anger does not make you strong. It makes you tired. Carrying resentment does not protect you. It imprisons you. The divine energy within you is expansive, and resentment contracts it. Love flows outward. Fear folds inward. When you choose forgiveness, you are not saying what happened was acceptable. You are saying that your peace matters more than your pain. You are choosing freedom over familiarity. And freedom, real freedom, is an inside job. It is not found in controlling circumstances or people. It is found in mastering perception. When you realize that you always have the power to choose how you relate to what happens, you reclaim your sovereignty. You stop being a victim of life and become a participant in it, not by force, but by awareness. Awareness is the great healer. When you bring awareness to a wound, it begins to soften. When you bring awareness to fear, it loses its grip. When you bring awareness to thought patterns, they no longer run your life unconsciously. Awareness is not something you create. It is what you are. You simply remember to use it. This remembering brings you into the present moment. And the present moment is where life actually happens. Not in regret, not in anticipation. Here, now, breathing, listening, being. The mind will try to pull you away into stories of what was or what might be, but every time you return to now, you return to truth. The energy inside you does not live in stories. It lives in presence. Presence does not mean you stop planning or reflecting. It means you no longer lose yourself in time. You use time instead of being used by it. You engage with life without abandoning yourself. And from this place, action becomes inspired rather than reactive. You do what needs to be done, but you do it without inner conflict, without resistance, without self-betrayal. When you live this way, life begins to feel less like a struggle and more like a dialogue. You listen and you respond. You trust and you move. You rest and you grow. You stop asking life to prove itself to you, and instead you begin to prove yourself trustworthy to life. You show up with openness rather than armor. Curiosity rather than judgment. Love rather than fear. And here's the quiet truth that changes everything. The energy you call God has never been disappointed in you. Disappointment is a human projection. Divinity does not keep score. It does not tally sins or track failures. It only knows expression. It only knows expansion. When you act from love, you align with it. When you act from fear, you experience contrast. But even contrast is part of learning, not punishment. There is nothing wrong with you. There never was. There may be conditioning to unlearn, stories to release, habits to soften, but your essence has never been damaged. You are not broken. You are remembering. And remembering takes patience. It takes kindness. It takes willingness. But it does not take force. So be gentle with yourself as you awaken. Do not rush the unfolding. Do not compare your journey to anyone else's. Comparison is the ego's favorite distraction. Your path is unique because your expression is unique, and the divine energy delights in expressing itself through endless variation. You are not meant to copy. You are meant to contribute. As you move forward, carry this knowing lightly but faithfully. You are not alone inside your own life. You are supported by the very force that breathes the stars into existence. Every moment you choose presence over panic, love over fear, truth over ego, you come into greater alignment with that force. And alignment feels like peace, not the absence of challenge, but the absence of inner war. Let this be the place you return to again and again, not as an idea, but as an experience, not as a belief, but as a knowing. God is not somewhere else. God is not waiting for you to become better. God is not withholding love until you get it right. God is the energy inside you, guiding you gently, patiently, faithfully home to yourself. And as this understanding deepens, you may notice something else beginning to dissolve, an old tension you didn't even realize you were carrying. The tension of needing to arrive somewhere else before you are allowed to feel whole. The tension of believing that peace is conditional, that fulfillment is postponed, that joy must be earned through effort or suffering. When that tension loosens, life does not suddenly become perfect, but it becomes honest. And honesty is far more liberating than perfection ever could be. You begin to see that much of what you once chased was not wrong, just misplaced. You were never wrong for wanting love, safety, meaning, or connection. You were only mistaken about where to find them. You looked outward because you forgot inward. You searched in approval because you forgot acceptance. You reached for control because you forgot trust. And forgetting is not a sin, it is part of the human experience. Remembering is simply the return. The divine energy within you is not impressed by how busy you are, how much you produce, or how many roles you juggle. It responds to alignment, not activity. You can spend your life running and still feel empty, or you can stand still in awareness and feel full. Fulfillment does not come from adding more to your life. It comes from removing what blocks you from feeling life fully. One of the greatest blocks is the belief that your value fluctuates, that it rises when you succeed and falls when you fail. But value that fluctuates is not value, it is performance. The truth is simpler and far more radical. Your worth is intrinsic. It is not conferred by success or revoked by mistakes. It is inherent because you exist. And existence itself is the expression of the divine. When you truly grasp this, competition loses its grip. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You stop turning life into a comparison chart. You begin to celebrate others without diminishing yourself. Their light does not threaten yours. In fact, it reflects it. The divine energy does not run out. It multiplies through expression. When one candle lights another, the room grows brighter, not dimmer. This understanding changes how you relate to struggle. Struggle no longer feels like evidence that you are doing something wrong. It becomes a signal that something is asking to be seen differently. Pain is not punishment, it is information. It points to where you are resisting reality, where you are clinging to an identity that no longer fits, where you are trying to control what is meant to flow. Resistance is exhausting because it asks you to fight life itself. Acceptance, on the other hand, does not mean you approve of everything. It means you stop arguing with what is. And when you stop arguing with reality, you free enormous amounts of energy. That energy can then be used to create, to heal, to love, to grow. Acceptance is not the end of change. It is the beginning of intelligent change. The ego fears acceptance because it believes acceptance means surrendering control. And it is right, control does loosen. But what takes its place is not chaos, it is wisdom. The wisdom to know when to act and when to wait, when to speak and when to listen, when to hold on and when to let go. This wisdom does not come from thinking harder, it comes from listening deeper. Listening deeper means learning to trust the quiet voice within you, the one that does not shout over fear but calmly persists beneath it. That voice has always been there. It was there when you were a child, before the world told you who to be. It was there in moments when something felt right even though it didn't make sense. It was there when you ignored it and later wished you hadn't. That voice is not emotional. It is clear. It is steady. It is the divine intelligence expressing itself as intuition. Intuition is not mystical. It is natural. It is what happens when you are aligned with yourself. When you are no longer fragmented by fear, guilt, and obligation, your inner guidance becomes unmistakable. It does not promise ease, but it promises truth. And truth, even when challenging, always brings peace in the long run. Peace does not mean your life becomes quiet on the outside. It means your life becomes quiet on the inside. You may still face deadlines, disagreements, and decisions, but they no longer define you. They pass through awareness instead of consuming it. You handle them with clarity rather than panic, with presence rather than projection. This is what it means to be in the world but not of it, to participate fully without losing yourself, to care deeply without clinging, to love fully without fear of loss. Love rooted in fear says, I need you to complete me. Love rooted in truth says, I am whole and I choose to share. The first binds, the second frees. And freedom is the natural state of the soul. Not freedom from responsibility, but freedom from illusion. The illusion that you are separate, the illusion that you are alone, the illusion that you must earn the right to exist. When these illusions fall away, life feels lighter, even when it is serious. There is a playfulness that emerges, a curiosity, a willingness to meet life as it is rather than how you think it should be. You begin to notice beauty where you once saw only routine, in ordinary moments, in small kindnesses, in quiet mornings, in the simple act of breathing without needing a reason. Gratitude arises not because everything is perfect, but because everything is alive, and you are alive within it. The energy inside you responds to gratitude because gratitude aligns you with reality rather than resistance. When you are grateful, you are present. When you are present, you are aligned. When you are aligned, you experience flow. Flow is not luck. It is the natural result of being in harmony with what is. And harmony does not require you to suppress emotions. Feel what you feel. Sadness, anger, fear, they are not enemies. They are visitors. Let them come. Let them speak. Let them leave. Do not build a home for them. Do not make an identity out of them. Awareness welcomes without attachment. It allows without identification. This is how healing happens. Not by force, not by denial, but by presence. What you can feel, you can heal. What you resist, persists. When you stop fighting yourself, the energy that was trapped in conflict becomes available for growth. Growth is not about becoming someone better than you are. It is about becoming more fully who you already are, peeling away what is false, releasing what is heavy, trusting what is real. And what is real in you has never been afraid, never been broken, never been lost. As you continue listening, living, and remembering, let this truth settle gently into your awareness. You are not moving toward divinity, you are moving from it. Every step you take in consciousness is divinity expressing itself through form. Every moment you choose love over fear is God knowing itself through you. There is nothing else you need to do to be worthy of this. Nothing to add, nothing to fix, nothing to prove. Simply notice, simply allow, simply be. And in that being, you will find that what you were searching for has been quietly waiting within you all along, steady, patient, eternal, the living energy you call God, breathing as you, seeing as you, loving as you, now and always. Relax for a moment, not as an instruction from the outside, but as a remembering that rises from within you. Because relaxation is not something you do, it is something you allow when you stop arguing with life. Just pause right here, wherever you are, and notice that your breath is already happening without your permission, your heart is already beating without your effort, and the universe itself has not been waiting for you to figure everything out before continuing its magnificent unfolding. This alone is a clue, a quiet whisper reminding you that life has always been supporting you far more than you realize. There is a deep exhaustion that comes from trying to manage everything, from believing that you must push, strive, control, prove, and hustle your way into worthiness. Many people call this ambition, but underneath it is fear. The fear that if you stop, you will fall behind. That if you relax, nothing will happen. That if you let go, you will lose what little you think you have. Yet the truth is the opposite. The most powerful moments of creation have never come from tension. They have always emerged from alignment, from harmony, from a mind that has remembered its connection to the source of all things. You see, the universe does not respond to your anxiety. It responds to your consciousness. It does not listen to the frantic voice of lack. It answers the quiet certainty of alignment. When you are tense, worried, grasping, you are broadcasting a message that says, I don't trust life. And life, in its infinite intelligence, simply mirrors that back to you. But when you relax, when you soften your grip, when you allow yourself to breathe into the present moment, you are saying something entirely different. You are saying, I trust the process. I trust the timing. I trust myself as an expression of something far greater than my fears. Relaxation is not laziness. It is not giving up. It is the highest form of confidence. It is the state of being that says, I know who I am, and I know that what belongs to me cannot miss me. The river does not strain to reach the ocean. It flows, and in its flowing, it arrives. The sun does not rush to shine, it simply is. And in its being, everything grows. When you relax, you align with this same intelligence. You stop forcing and start attracting. You stop chasing and start allowing. There is a profound misunderstanding about how life works that has been passed down for generations. The belief that you must earn love, earn peace, earn abundance, earn approval. But what if none of this is true? What if you came into this world already complete, already whole, already deserving? What if your task is not to become worthy, but to remember that you always were? This remembering changes everything, because it shifts your identity from a seeker to a receiver, from a struggler to a participant in a divine unfolding. The ego, that small voice in the mind that believes it is separate, thrives on urgency. It says, hurry up, you're running out of time, everyone else is ahead of you. But the soul has no deadlines. The soul understands that nothing real can be threatened and nothing unreal exists. It knows that what is meant for you is already on its way, carried by an intelligence that sees far beyond what your eyes can perceive. When you live from the soul, you no longer measure your life by external milestones. You measure it by inner alignment, by peace, by the quiet joy of knowing that you are in harmony with yourself. Consider how often you have tried to force connections, relationships, opportunities, or outcomes, only to feel drained, disappointed, or disconnected afterward. This is not because you failed. It is because those things were not aligned with who you truly are. The right people do not require effort. They arrive with ease. The right opportunities do not demand compromise of your values. They recognize you instantly. The right luxuries, the right abundance, the right experiences flow toward you when you are no longer using them to define your worth, but allowing them to be expressions of your inner state. When you relax, you stop asking, "How can I get?" and begin asking, "How can I be?" And in that shift, everything changes. Being peaceful invites peaceful experiences. Being loving attracts loving relationships. Being abundant in thought opens the door for abundance in form. This is not wishful thinking. It is the fundamental law of correspondence. As within, so without. Your outer world is a reflection of your inner consciousness, and no amount of external effort can override an internal belief system rooted in lack or fear. Relaxation is an act of trust, and trust is the language the universe understands. It says, "I know that I am supported." And when you truly know this, you no longer cling to people who do not see you, situations that diminish you, or dreams that do not resonate with your soul. You allow what no longer serves you to fall away, not in bitterness or resentment, but in gratitude for the lesson it offered. You understand that endings are not punishments, they are redirections. There is a sacred timing to everything in life, and the ego despises timing because it cannot control it. The ego wants guarantees. The soul wants alignment. When you relax, you surrender the need to know exactly how and when things will happen, and you open yourself to something far more powerful: synchronicity. Synchronicity is the universe winking at you, showing you that you are on the right path, that invisible hands are arranging circumstances in your favor, that what you need will appear at precisely the right moment. Think about the moments in your life that felt magical, the times when things fell into place effortlessly, when you met the right person at the right time, when an opportunity appeared just when you were ready for it. Those moments did not happen because you worried enough or tried hard enough. They happened because, for a brief time, you were aligned, present, open, and trusting. The invitation now is to live that way more often, not as an exception, but as a way of being. Relaxing does not mean you stop taking inspired action. It means you stop forcing action that is rooted in fear. Inspired action feels different. It feels light, natural, energizing. It arises from intuition rather than anxiety. When you are aligned, you know when to act and when to wait. You are guided by an inner wisdom that is far more reliable than the endless chatter of the mind. This wisdom has been with you your entire life, quietly guiding you, nudging you, protecting you, even when you were not aware of it. The mind will try to convince you that relaxation is dangerous, that if you let go of control, everything will fall apart. But look honestly at your life. How much of what truly matters has ever been under your control? Did you control the moment you were born, the beating of your heart, the changing of the seasons, the rising of the sun? And yet, all of these things happen with perfect precision. Life is not chaotic at its core. It is intelligent beyond measure. When you relax, you stop resisting this intelligence and start cooperating with it. There is a gentleness to life that reveals itself only when you stop pushing against it. Like a butterfly that lands on your hand, only when you are still, the universe reveals its gifts when you are receptive. The right people are already finding their way to you, even now. Conversations are being prepared. Paths are being cleared. Doors are opening in places you have not yet looked. Your only task is to remain open, present, and aligned with who you truly are. Luxuries, too, are not something to chase or feel guilty about. True luxury is not excess, it is ease. It is the feeling of being supported, nourished, and valued by life itself. It is waking up without dread, moving through your day with a sense of flow, and resting at night with a peaceful mind. Material comforts can be beautiful expressions of this state, but they are never the source of it. When you stop trying to use things to fill an inner void, you discover that the void was an illusion, and the things you desire come naturally, without struggle. Relaxation also invites healing. So much of your tension is not about the present moment, but about unresolved stories from the past and imagined fears about the future. The body carries these stories, holding on to them as tight muscles, shallow breath, and chronic fatigue. When you relax, you give your body permission to release what it no longer needs. You tell your nervous system that it is safe, that the battle is over, that it can return to balance. Forgiveness often arises naturally from this state of relaxation, not as a moral obligation, but as a practical choice for inner freedom. When you relax, you realize that holding on to resentment is like gripping a hot coal and expecting someone else to feel the burn. You see that forgiveness is not about condoning behavior, it is about releasing yourself from the burden of carrying the past into the present. As you forgive, you create space for new experiences, new relationships, and new possibilities to enter your life. The ego will protest and say, "But what if I get hurt again?" And the soul responds, "You will be wiser, not smaller." Relaxation does not make you weak, it makes you resilient. It allows you to move through life with an open heart and clear boundaries, trusting yourself to respond rather than react. When you are relaxed, you are not easily manipulated by fear or urgency. You choose from clarity, not compulsion. Living in this relaxed state also transforms the way you see time. You stop rushing through moments as if life were a checklist to be completed. You begin to inhabit each moment fully, discovering that the present is not a stepping stone to something else, but the only place where life actually happens. In the present, you are not lacking anything. In the present, you are whole. The future unfolds most beautifully when it is built on a foundation of presence rather than impatience. The soul understands that you cannot miss what is meant for you. This understanding brings a deep sense of peace. You no longer compare your journey to others or measure your progress by external standards. You honor your own rhythm, your own timing, your own path. You recognize that the seed does not compare itself to the tree. It simply grows according to its nature. In the same way, you are unfolding exactly as you are meant to, even if it does not always look the way you imagined. Relaxing also allows you to listen more deeply to others and to yourself. You begin to hear the subtle guidance that was always there beneath the noise of worry and expectation. This guidance may come as a feeling, a sudden insight, a sense of knowing without explanation. Trust it. The soul always knows the way, even when the mind is confused. When you follow this inner knowing, life becomes less of a struggle and more of a dance. The right people recognize this energy. They feel safe in your presence because you are not trying to use them to fill a void. You are complete within yourself, and from that wholeness, you share rather than demand. Relationships formed from this space are not transactional. They are resonant. They are based on mutual respect, authenticity, and growth. You no longer chase connection. You allow it to unfold naturally. As you relax into who you truly are, you also release the need to prove yourself. You understand that worthiness is not something you earn through achievement or approval. It is an inherent quality of your being. You are worthy because you exist. This realization is deeply liberating. It frees you from the endless cycle of seeking validation and allows you to live from a place of self-acceptance and compassion. Compassion naturally extends outward when you are relaxed within yourself. You see others not as obstacles or competitors, but as fellow travelers on their own journeys of remembering. You become less judgmental, more understanding, because you recognize the same fears and hopes reflected in different forms. This shift in perception changes your interactions, inviting more kindness, cooperation, and harmony into your life. The universe responds to this state of being with remarkable precision. Opportunities align with your values. Resources appear when needed. Support arrives in unexpected ways. This is not coincidence, it is coherence. When your inner world is aligned, your outer world follows suit. You stop swimming upstream and allow the current to carry you toward experiences that resonate with your true self. Relaxation also teaches you patience, not as passive waiting, but as active trust. You learn that some things require gestation, that forcing growth only leads to distortion. Just as a child develops in the womb according to a natural timeline, your dreams and desires are unfolding in perfect order. Your role is to nurture them with positive intention, clarity, and faith, not to pull them into existence prematurely. Faith, in this context, is not blind belief. It is a deep inner knowing that life is on your side. It is the confidence that comes from recognizing your connection to something infinite and benevolent. When you relax into this faith, fear loses its grip. You may still feel it arise from time to time, but it no longer dictates your choices. You acknowledge it, breathe through it, and return to trust. The more you practice relaxation as a way of being, the more natural it becomes. It is not something you force, but something you remember. You remember that you are not separate from the source of life, that you are an expression of it. You remember that you are here to experience, to learn, to love, and to create, not to constantly struggle against the flow of existence. And so, you relax, not because everything is perfect, but because you trust that everything is unfolding perfectly. You relax because you know that the right people are already finding their way into your life, drawn by the authenticity of your being. You relax because you know that the luxuries you desire, whether material or emotional, are natural byproducts of alignment, not prizes to be chased. You relax because you finally understand that you are not behind, broken, or lacking. You are exactly where you need to be. In this relaxed state, life becomes less about arrival and more about appreciation. You begin to notice the beauty that was always there, the small moments of grace that often go unnoticed in a hurried mind. You find joy not only in outcomes, but in the process itself. You realize that happiness is not waiting for you at some future destination. It is available to you now, in the simple act of being present and aligned. This is the quiet revolution. The shift from striving to allowing, from fear to trust, from ego to soul. It does not announce itself loudly or demand attention. It unfolds gently, steadily, transforming your life from the inside out. And as you continue to relax into this truth, you will find that life meets you with the same gentleness, offering you exactly what you need, exactly when you are ready to receive it. So relax, breathe, trust. The universe has not forgotten you. It never could. You are part of it, inseparable from its intelligence and love. The right people and luxuries are not something you must chase. They are already coming to you, drawn by the simple, powerful truth of who you are when you remember to let go and allow life to flow through you. And as you continue to relax into this remembering, something subtle yet profound begins to occur within you, almost like the quiet settling of dust in a room that has been stirred for too long. Your mind grows less noisy, not because you force it to be silent, but because it no longer needs to shout to protect you. The mind begins to trust the wisdom of the heart, and the heart, in turn, rests in the intelligence of life itself. This is not a dramatic transformation that demands applause. It is a gentle homecoming, a return to what has always been true beneath the layers of conditioning. You start to notice that many of the things you once worried about lose their emotional charge. Situations that used to trigger fear or frustration now pass through you like clouds across the sky. You still notice them, you still respond when necessary, but you are no longer entangled. You are witnessing rather than clinging, observing rather than resisting. This is the freedom that comes not from changing the world, but from changing your relationship to it. The ego, of course, will attempt to reassert itself. It may whisper that you are becoming complacent, that you are losing your edge, that without constant striving you will be overlooked or left behind. But these are echoes of an old story, a story rooted in scarcity and separation. When you listen closely, you can hear how tired that story sounds. You can feel how heavy it is to carry. And in that awareness, you are free to choose again, to return to trust, to return to ease. Ease does not mean a life without challenges. It means a life without unnecessary resistance. Challenges still arise, but you meet them differently. You meet them with curiosity instead of dread, with openness instead of defensiveness. You understand that every challenge is not an obstacle, but an invitation to deepen your alignment, to refine your awareness, to strengthen your connection to your inner guidance. In this way, nothing is wasted, everything serves. When you relax, you also give yourself permission to be authentic. You stop performing for approval and start expressing from truth. This authenticity is magnetic. It draws into your life people who resonate with who you truly are, not who you pretend to be. You no longer have to maintain masks or manage impressions. You simply show up as yourself, and in doing so, you create space for genuine connection to flourish. Genuine connection does not demand perfection, it invites presence. It asks only that you be real, that you listen, that you allow yourself to be seen without armor. When you are relaxed within yourself, vulnerability no longer feels like a threat. It feels like honesty. And honesty, when rooted in self-acceptance, is one of the most powerful healing forces available to you. As this healing unfolds, you may notice old patterns loosening their grip. Habits that once felt automatic begin to lose their appeal. Reactions that once seemed inevitable now pause, giving you a choice. This pause is a gift. In it, you can respond from awareness rather than conditioning. You can choose love over fear, trust over control, patience over urgency. Each choice, no matter how small, reinforces your alignment and deepens your peace. The world may not immediately reflect these inner shifts in obvious ways, but trust that it is responding. Energy moves before form appears. Seeds germinate underground long before green shoots break the surface. Your relaxation is creating fertile ground for new experiences, even if you cannot yet see them. This is where faith becomes practical, where trust is not a concept, but a lived experience. You begin to sense that life is collaborating with you rather than testing you. Synchronicities increase. Meaningful coincidences occur with surprising frequency. You encounter ideas, people, and opportunities that feel tailor-made for your current state of growth. These are not accidents. They are confirmations, gentle nods from the universe, reminding you that you are aligned, that you are listening, that you are allowing. Allowing is a powerful word. It implies receptivity, openness, and courage. It takes courage to allow because it requires releasing the illusion of control. Yet in that release, you discover a deeper form of security, one that does not depend on circumstances remaining fixed. You feel secure because you trust yourself to navigate whatever arises, guided by an inner compass that has never failed you, even when you doubted it. This trust extends to your desires as well. You no longer cling to them with desperation or define yourself by their fulfillment. You hold them lightly, with appreciation and curiosity. You recognize that desires are not demands, they are directions, signals pointing you toward experiences that support your growth and joy. When you relax around your desires, you remove the resistance that often delays or distorts their manifestation. Luxuries, when approached from this relaxed state, become expressions of appreciation rather than substitutes for self-worth. You enjoy them without attachment, savor them without guilt, and release them without fear. You understand that abundance is not about accumulation, it is about circulation. What flows to you can also flow through you, enriching not only your life, but the lives of others. This understanding naturally inspires generosity, not as an obligation, but as a joy. When you feel supported by life, you want to support life in return. You give not to prove your goodness, but to express it. You share not because you fear scarcity, but because you trust abundance. In this way, giving and receiving become two sides of the same movement, a continuous exchange of energy that sustains and uplifts. Relaxation also deepens your appreciation for simplicity. You discover that peace does not require constant stimulation or external validation. You find beauty in quiet moments, in nature, in stillness. A walk, a conversation, a breath becomes an opportunity to reconnect with the present, to remember that life is happening now, not in some imagined future. This presence enriches every experience, making even ordinary moments feel meaningful. As you live from this place, your sense of identity shifts. You no longer define yourself solely by roles, titles, or achievements. You see these as expressions, not definitions. At your core, you are awareness itself, observing, experiencing, learning. This awareness is not limited by circumstances. It is expansive, creative, and resilient. When you identify with this deeper self, you are less shaken by change and more open to growth. Change, in fact, becomes something you welcome rather than resist. You understand that stagnation is not safety, it is disconnection. Life is movement, evolution, expansion. When you relax into this truth, you move with change instead of fighting it. You trust that each transition is guiding you toward greater alignment, even if it feels uncomfortable at first. The past, which once held so much emotional weight, begins to soften in your awareness. You see it not as a series of mistakes or regrets, but as a collection of lessons that shaped your understanding. You forgive yourself for not knowing what you know now. You recognize that every step you took, even the painful ones, contributed to your growth. This compassion for your own journey frees you to move forward without carrying unnecessary guilt or shame. Forgiveness extends outward as well, not because others deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You release the need to replay old stories or seek validation through resentment. You understand that holding on to anger ties you to the very experiences you wish to transcend. In letting go, you reclaim your energy and redirect it toward creation rather than protection. Creation becomes a natural expression of your relaxed state. You create not to prove yourself, but to express yourself, whether through work, art, relationships, or simple acts of kindness. You contribute your unique perspective to the world. You trust that your contribution matters, not because it is grand, but because it is authentic. Life does not need you to be perfect, it needs you to be present. Presence also transforms the way you approach uncertainty. Instead of fearing the unknown, you become curious about it. You see uncertainty not as a void, but as a field of possibility. You understand that the unknown is where growth happens, where new experiences are born. By relaxing into uncertainty, you allow life to surprise you, to delight you, to expand you in ways you could not have planned. Planning still has its place, but it is guided by intuition rather than anxiety. You set intentions rather than rigid expectations. You remain flexible, responsive, and open to guidance. When plans change, you adapt without losing your sense of self. You trust that detours are not setbacks, but redirections towards something that serves you more deeply. This trust radiates outward, influencing how others perceive and interact with you. People sense your calm, your confidence, your groundedness. They feel at ease around you because you are at ease with yourself. This ease creates opportunities for collaboration, understanding, and mutual growth. You become a stabilizing presence, not because you have all the answers, but because you are comfortable with not knowing. Not knowing, when embraced, becomes a form of wisdom. It keeps you open, curious, and humble. It reminds you that life is not a problem to be solved, but a mystery to be lived. When you relax into this mystery, you experience life more fully, with wonder rather than expectation. You allow moments to unfold without labeling them too quickly, without trying to extract meaning before it reveals itself naturally. As this way of being becomes more familiar, you realize that relaxation is not a temporary state, but a foundational orientation toward life. It is how you meet each day, each interaction, each challenge. It is the lens through which you see the world, a lens that softens edges and reveals connections. Through it, you see that you are never truly alone, that you are always supported by an intelligence that is both intimate and vast. And so, you continue, not with urgency, but with trust. You continue knowing that what is meant for you is already unfolding, guided by a wisdom far greater than your conscious mind. You continue relaxed, open, and present, allowing the right people, the right experiences, and the right luxuries to arrive in their own perfect timing. You do not rush to meet them. You simply become the version of yourself that is ready to receive them. In this becoming, you discover that the greatest luxury of all is inner peace, the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are and trusting life to meet you where you are. Everything else is an addition, a beautiful expression of a truth you already embody. And from this place, you live not as a seeker chasing fulfillment, but as a conscious participant in a life that is continually offering you exactly what you need to grow, to heal, and to remember the infinite potential that has always lived within you.